Anyway, for the final segment I want to talk about was just this article, which I found really interesting. And so I'm going to deploy the forbidden argument with this.
Oh God, where are we going?
So yeah, crack my knuckles. We're on patrol, egg patrol.
What?
Well, unmarried, child-free women like me should be celebrated, not criticised, says Katrine Hart, a 53-year-old woman.
Right.
So in the same way of Patrice saying, hey, it's okay that I've got a multi-million-dollar house and a bunch of houses and I'm, living there with my family because Black Lives Matter, this is kind of self-serving in that very same way.
I mean, she's not saying I should be accepted or just, free to do as I wish. Celebrated.
Celebrated. We need
criticised.
society to gather around and tell her that she's done a great job.
But also not criticised.
Not criticised. Celebrated.
Yeah, I don't agree.
Well, let's hear her case. She says, it was never an ultimate goal of mine to get married and have kids. While girls at school were dreaming of fairy tale weddings and cute baby names, I was fantasizing about becoming an actress and traveling the world. So after graduating from uni, that's exactly what I did. I performed in front of the camera in small independent films in New York and on various stages across Germany. In 2008, when I decided to pursue a career in journalism, I moved to London. There was no room in my life for a serious boyfriend, let alone children. Okay, it's her choice. Yet, as my ticking biological clock grew louder during my mid-30s, so did the pressure I felt from society to settle down and lead a more conventional life. Blockbuster movies, television shows, as well as magazine advertisements seemed to ascribe to the notion that tying the knot and changing nappies was the key to a woman's eternal joy. My sisters were married with children, as were all my female friends. In a bout of insecurity, I'd asked myself, shouldn't I be too? Men were looking at me weird when I'd mentioned that at the age of 40 I was single and child-free. One was going as far to inquire as what went wrong, and telling me that it was selfish for women not to procreate. Such rude, insensitive comments would leave me reeling.
They kept sending me egg carton memes.
I couldn't use my Twitter account at all. But that's interesting, isn't it? It was telling me it was selfish for women not to procreate. Now, I don't think that's necessarily just for women. If you're going to say it's selfish not to procreate,
How?
Well, we'll elaborate this as we get to the end. She says, almost out of spite, I tried for 3 years with my then boyfriend Thomas to conceive, including 2 failed rounds of IVF. Now, I think, again, going back to the article that we covered the other day, where it's like, actually, women can have fertile years up until they're like 37, maybe, but why risk it? Yet another example where, I was 40 and I thought I'd have kids, and it didn't happen. No, nature is cruel, and these things aren't guaranteed. So when you've got more chance of it, maybe you should consider it then. But of course, she didn't really want children, so maybe it's a good thing that she didn't get them. She says that relationship wasn't meant to be. In 2012, he ended things, and in hindsight, I see it as a blessing that I've never had to witness a positive blue line appear on a home pregnancy test. Today, I'm 53 with neither a wedding band on my finger, nor any offspring which I can call my own, and I couldn't be happier. Which is, I'm sure, the reason you wrote this article. You were just blooming with happiness. I'm so happy. I need to tell people about this.
Yeah, that I should be celebrated and not criticised.
Yeah. I'm just so happy. Just so happy about it. I spent the last 10 years dating a slew of men, one 20 years my junior. Well done. And enjoying the freedom that goes along with never having given birth. On my first solo holiday in 2012, I flew to Fuerteventura. Thanks, John. And where I rang in the new year learning how to
Johnny
kite
Foreigner
surf.
land.
Yeah. But, okay. And then one Christmas, I pampered myself at a detox retreat in Koh Suami. I've been to Morocco and Spain. I've been on girls' trips to Egypt and Dubai. How exciting for her. That's just great. I love hearing about her holidays. These are wonderful. Holidays. On her own. Roaming the globe as a bachelorette has been one of the most liberating feelings I've ever had. A whole new world opened itself up to me, both figuratively and literally. I've had adventures I'm not sure I would have had the chance to experience as a wife or mother. To mark my 50th, I explored Barcelona by bike with 3 girlfriends, presumably all childless. In 2018, I received a master's degree in cultural studies and as a reward, splurged on a 2.5-week backpacking tour of Bali. Later that year, I drove up and down the coast of Portugal in a rented Fiat 500, giggling non-stop with one of my best friends. Roaming the globe as a bachelorette has been one of the most liberated feelings I've ever had. So liberating, she had to tell us twice. It's liberating. More liberation. Liberating. Lib. Liberation in all ways, for all time. Otherwise known as ostracization, incidentally. By the way, normally when you have this few bonds between other human beings, you're considered to be a lonely outcast. But she's not. She's having a good time. Observing couples who have spent decades together joined at the hip, I do wonder how happy they are. Many are trapped in unhealthy patterns, bickering, dismissing their spouse's feelings, no longer laughing. Wouldn't life be so much more fun without supposed better half? As I now watch my 4 female friends go through painful divorces, fighting with their ex-husbands over money and custody of their brood, I thank my lucky stars I've been spared all that. And perhaps that is the upside. She doesn't have to go through a divorce.
It's a pretty weird way of looking at life. Like, I'm glad I didn't have any of the pain because I had none of the joy.
I don't want to have to put my dog down at some point, so I'm not going to get a puppy.
Yeah.
Checkmate. Nature. On the other hand, I couldn't be more proud of these ladies for taking such a courageous step, recreating their lives and embarking on a new path. Yes, because misery loves company. Since my most recent relationship came to an abrupt halt in July because of the lockdown, I've spent a lot of time focusing on my personal growth. The amount of clarity I've gained has been a real eye-opener, and I'm incredibly grateful for having had this time alone with no one around to distract me with their wants and needs. Sounds really lonely. Like, literally, I'm on my own. I've grown as a person. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, but who are you going to share that knowledge with? You don't share anything with us. Like, normally you'd, like, teach your children this, perhaps? Share it with your spouse? I don't know, but she just sat in an apartment alone, presumably drinking wine. It's been a while since I heard a man make a derogatory comment on either my marital or family status. Perhaps this is because in the Me Too era they're too scared to say anything that might be misconstrued as harassment, or they're afraid that they might succumb to today's cancel culture for causing offence. Perhaps this woke generation is simply too woke. Which sounds terrifying, doesn't it? It makes it sound like she's she's sitting at the very top of a pyramid of tyranny. And she's like, oh, you're all too scared to say anything about me now, aren't you? Or it could be that once you meet a woman in her mid-50s, you're like, yeah, there's no hope for her now. The eggs have gone. Like, the carton's empty. There's no point saying you should start a family, because she's like, dude, it's way past that. But maybe it's because they see a self-confident woman standing before them who radiates inner strength and independence, who has made no compromises in life, and as a result is fulfilled, because she knows that she is enough to fulfill and achieve her hopes and dreams. That's what they're thinking. That's what they're all thinking. Mm. They're all watching you go by as a radiant goddess going, wow, she's really got all this down. That's
totally how you see yourself as well. I've achieved all my hopes and dreams. Let me tell you about how it's all fine and everything's fine. Yeah.
I'm so fine. I'm so fine I wrote this article telling you how fine I am. Other people think the things that are about to come out of my head through my keyboard about how I'm a self-confident woman, blah, 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 blah. Okay, sure. I'll just take it on your word. You are. You absolutely are. I dare anyone to make me feel bad about myself for that. Challenge accepted. I will do this. I will be that brave person to make you feel bad about this. Just as I'm sure there are many women who are blissfully married with children, there are a bunch of us who never married nor had children who are just as content. I'm sure. And you know what contentedness with your life is? It's writing articles about how content you are with your life. That's what you do. You spend all day going, I'm so content. It doesn't seem smug or anything.
It's also literally the meme of asking a woman, is everything all right? Fine.
Yep,
sure you are.
Yep. So instead of stigmatizing those who resisted the pressure to conform to society's norms, we ought to raise our glass in celebration and congratulate these women for their perseverance, determination, and tenacity to march to the beat of their own drum. Which is to say, not to say that I wouldn't welcome an amazing man by my side with whom to grow old, so long as he doesn't ask me to marry him.
Oh, she really let down the side with that last statement.
She really did. I was actually gutted, because up until that point, I was kind of starting to buy into it. It's like, maybe she is just so successful and so, enjoying herself, and she just doesn't need anything.
There is something admirable in a person who's content with that as well. If she genuinely was and was like, no, I'm just going to go on my own drum, I think that's cool, because, we're Chads who are going to become the CEOs of the world or something.
Yeah.
But then, but I would welcome a husband if anyone's free. It's like,
kind of undermines her case. But the point is, like, what does she tell us about her life? And really, it seems to be a life purely of hedonism. Right? She's lived her life for her. She doesn't appear to have lived her life for anyone else. Where's the virtue in this? Why is this good?
What will last?
Well, it doesn't even matter about that. Like, just where's the moral good in living a purely selfish life? I mean, anyone can do this. This is, in fact, the default of humanity is to live your life for yourself. And this is not something we lionize. We say, oh, people who do charity, people who go overseas and help the poor or tend to the sick. Not wine aunts who are like, yeah, well, I was driving around the coast of Portugal.
What does she preserve?
Exactly. What is she creating? She's doing nothing but just enjoying. I will just be a Kuma until I die, she says. I've lived for myself, applaud me is not exactly good messaging, in my opinion. And it's not good messaging for future generations, which I guess she didn't consider really. And what I find interesting about this is that, well, it's kind of difficult to suggest that this is a lifestyle that everyone should accept. Because, I mean, like, if everyone decided to do that, how are you going to do all of the things that required other people's input? Like, if she goes paragliding or something, she needs people to operate the paragliding sort of company that takes her to wherever she goes, to build the equipment. And so she's relying on the labor of other people. And to rely on the labor of other people, you have to assume that there are other people there. Okay, well, how do we get other people there? Well, we have to contribute to the process that is civilization by having our own children, or else there is literally not going to be enough labor around for you to do this. And you could say, well, what about immigrants? Okay, so you're going to be a parasite on the labor of foreigners. As they raise their children, you're going to offer them money and they're going to come and be your servants, are they? It's like, where is this going? Like, how could this possibly be something that she could promote as a virtue when what she seems to have done is found herself at the top of society and then done nothing but indulge her own desires?
You're right, but what I'm struck by is it's not even anything like keeping society going, through childbirth and all the rest of it. There's not even anything small. There's not like, oh, there's a mural in my town that I keep up, clean and preserve it for future generations.
She does nothing for anyone else.
Nada. I mean, maybe she has something in her life, but she doesn't mention it at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, if she had mentioned something, then fine, I'd be wrong. And maybe she's keeping all of the kind and charitable works she does secret because she doesn't want to brag.
Yeah.
She just goes on holiday all the time.
She just want to brag about living a hedonistic life.
She seems that she does.
She's totally fine with, by the way.
So basically, if I wanted to make her feel bad about this, if I wanted to stigmatize her about her life choices,
as she's asked,
I would call her a leech. She is leeching off of other people's efforts in child rearing. And I can say as a father, it's not easy, but it is rewarding. But she expects that other people will raise the children that she needs to fulfill the other functions in society that she herself is not functioning. I mean, she's not exactly being cabin in the woods kind of frontiersman, is she? I was building. I mean, and don't get me wrong. If she's like, I was like, no, screw you, screw your society, screw all of this. I'm going to go live in the woods, build myself a cabin, and hunt deer or something.
Then she'd be preserving something.
Yes, but also she'd be building something, and she would be self-sufficient, and I could respect that. I'd be like, okay, fine, that's fine. But instead, you're like, no, I'm just going to use everyone else's unpaid labor of raising those kids, and just seems really selfish. But the question as well raises itself is she actually happy, or is she merely consistently occupied? Like, she's like, oh, well, I'm going here, I'm doing this, I'm going, okay, but like, the need to constantly do like things like this, to me, strikes me as someone who is deeply unsatisfied with their personal life at home. You don't need to go off and do all of these things if you feel like you have a satisfactory life. The sort of people who are constantly like, oh, I have to go on holiday, I have to go on holiday. It's like, well, why aren't you happy where you are? Like, why aren't you happy with your life? What have you done? And then you've got the sort of like, well, who's going to remember you? Who's going to care when you die? Who's going to know anything about you? Who's going to think about you with fondness after you go?
But that's the thing as well. I was actually, the end part there, and I was in agreement with you that actually kind of, it would sound kind of Chad.
Yeah.
If she was just like, no, this is just how I'm going to live my life. I think it's great. It's amazing. All right, yeah, fine. If that's your choice, I mean, no one should rescind it, all the rest of it. But the fact that that last line, like, she completely undermines everything she's just said.
Yeah. Again, go and build a cabin in the woods if you want to reject society. Fine, Chad, in fact. Yeah. But sitting there leeching off of the products of society while you're like, yeah, but I don't have to contribute to this in any way, shape, or form. You're going to do it for me. Not my problem. And note, Callan doesn't want kids. Yeah, I don't care.
It's not true.
It doesn't even change my point.
Oh.
I'll shame you too.
I need a woman before I can have kids, Carl.
That's true. That's true. But this is the point, though. What lasting satisfaction has she gained? What has she done for anyone else? Why will anyone remember her? And all she is presenting is a monument to her own indulgence. Look how happy I am with constant Kumarism. Good for you. So no, I don't think this is a life worth celebrating. And to be honest with you, I'm not even bothered about condemning it either, though. You know, I mean, like if you wanna be like this, then go ahead. But these things don't last forever, and I'm guessing because you were 53 when you wrote this article, you're starting to realise that you're coming to the end of this sort of ability in your life, and then you've got another 30 years at the very least. What are you gonna do? Not gonna be much skiing going on when you're in your 80s. Not going to get very many visits from other people, since literally who's going to know who you are? And what a sad end. If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 PM UK time on lotuseaters.com.